Welcome to Grace Guides Podcast. Our goal is to provide practical, evidence-based knowledge to bring peace to your family system. All prior episodes can be accessed by subscribing on Spotify, Anchor, and other podcast services. Visit graceguides.com and join our monthly newsletter mailing list. The following discussion is for informational purposes only and is not meant to diagnose or treat any mental health condition. Please visit with your own mental health provider for case-specific help. Thank you and enjoy.
Hi everyone, it's Angela with Grace Guides.
And Sarah.
And we are here with our 8th podcast episode and 2nd YouTube episode.
YouTube official.
Yes. Once again, we're surrounded by people that know what they're doing. We do not know what we're doing. Just full disclaimer.
They just tell us to talk.
I think they know that.
Yeah.
I think the world knows that we don't know what we're doing on the podcast. So today's topic, because we like to get right to it and give you little nuggets of information to use in your daily life, and that is this concept of
fight, flight, or freeze.
Darn, I was hoping there'd be a sound effect. Anyway.
Our producer has left, so we'll be back in just a second.
So, fight, flight, or freeze. Right, so fight, flight, or freeze, the basics is what we're going to talk about today and how it helps us in our daily life if, once again, we have an awareness about it. So our bodies, our brains are pretty amazing things, and we have a built-in protective system. Picture for a moment you're running through the wilderness, and suddenly you come across a big grizzly bear. See, I need more sound effects. Exactly. And you're terrified, you see it, you have a split second to respond. What's happening in your body and brain at that moment?
Well, the first thing that popped in my mind was freeze, because that's my natural instinct. And if you listen to our last episode, we talked about the emotions and how our body reacts and how kind of you can't judge a book by its cover, because if you look at me, you would think that I'm going to be ready to fight. I'm going to be ready to fight. But I always freeze. I freeze probably because I have to process it, which can be another episode. But I am a freezer.
And I'm a fighter. And so when I see that bear, and my body, my nervous system tells me I'm in danger, my default is going to be that I can take that bear on, which is not smart. So to break this down as far as how our nervous system works, we have instincts that are there to keep us alive, a basic survival instinct. And the body's really good at using that. What it's not so good at is distinguishing between the real dangers, like the grizzly bear in the wild, and maybe not such real dangers, but we still go into that part of the brain that operates from a place of fear. And so that even means like just our daily interactions can really, our body can misinterpret, our body and brain can misinterpret, and we are in that part of the brain that is where fight, flight, freeze exist, that survival instinct, and our behavior comes from that place. So like Sarah said, she is a stop, drop, and freeze personality. And so we use this in our regular dealings in our home. And by that I mean when any individual is stressed or anxious or just on edge, the body and brain interpret that as danger, and you go into a place of fear. And so maybe if you're a fighter, that looks like really short-temperedness or some sort of physical expression to get that anger out. You know, in extreme cases, it can be, you know, hitting things, punching things, not necessarily other people, but it can be very expressive when you go into fight. And so, Sarah, when you go into freeze in those everyday occasions, what does that look like?
It's almost like someone pulled the cord,
Okay.
like a zoom.
Power
Just,
down.
yeah, just like a power down. And while you were talking, I was thinking, like, I'm a teacher, but we all remember that feeling of being called to the principal's office.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't remember that feeling, it's similar to when your mom's yelling at you from the other room to come over. Or in Abbie's case, sending a text that says, "Can you come out here so we can talk?"
Oh, gosh. Yeah, she hates those. Yeah.
And so that was like the I still get the calls to the principal's office, and I immediately freeze.
Really?
I do, because I do. I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? Like, I try to list like 3 things I did wrong, 3 things I did right. You try to come up with all the possible things that it could be that you're being called in for, and I'm literally frozen, sitting in this chair. I was reading the email standing, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? What did I do? Where do I go? Where's the principal's office?
Oh, I was like,
Like,
you need to get to the office.
Yeah, like, it's a total, like, zoom. And then, you know, when you plug it back, I'm thinking the internet, when you plug your internet back in and the lights slowly come back on.
Online, yeah.
That's literally what I'm like.
I love that, because it sort of matches your depletion visual from earlier, too, from our previous episode. So in our family conversations, you know, so what does this look like in a household? You know, it looks like bickering. It looks like maybe some crying. It looks like shutting down. We know from a lot of practice that Abbie is a flight, so it can also look like somebody leaving the conversation. And it can be really difficult. I mean, it can really put an energy in the household that's hard to get out of, right? So if you get into this, again, just run the analogy of the wilder. If you're at that heightened place reactionary, and then you have a household with multiple people in that reactionary state, you can see how things can escalate quickly, particularly if you have 2 fighters, or you have more than 2 fighters. I mean, it's some family systems, you know, everybody goes to that place.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have two freezers, you're gonna not get anywhere.
It's gonna be pretty cold. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, our producer missed his opportunity for my joke.
My bad.
No, we know it's a lot to keep up with here. Oh, sadly, he used the crickets. Okay, so what we've learned in our house, because we have 3 people in our household, and fortunately or unfortunately, each of us is different. I am the fighter.
I am the freezer.
And Abbie is takes flight, the flyer, awaiter. She will retreat to her room, and before we knew that this is what was happening, it just frustrated the heck out of me, because I am a talker and I want to resolve the problem right now. I want to have the hard conversations. I like confrontation. That can really stress other people out. And if I don't maintain an awareness about it, I can be really difficult. Likewise, Abbie has to keep her awareness around the fact that she is she runs away from the conversations. She has to, be responsible for that behavior in this. I do. And then when you freeze, you have to be aware, because otherwise it's going to be a lot of conflict. And so when we say find peace, this is another big piece of that, is working through what our survival response is and how it's affecting our daily living.
And then we've worked to work together. We've worked to understand the wiring of each of us and give that time. Like Angela has given me time for the lights to come back on. I had to buy like a booster pack as I grew to get it to turn on faster, but she gave me that time to grow just as I allowed her to use her words. Like, I'm not going to just let her use her words and freeze and sit down and not listen, but you really, like, there's a time where you have to let them get their stage out, whether it's fight, flight, freeze, but then there's also a time to transition into that working forward, that getting that forward momentum.
Yeah. You know what my favorite personal story is?
Home Depot?
Yes.
Ah, yes. I was hoping we were going to Home Depot.
This is the best example I have because we bought one of those sheds, those storage sheds that you have to assemble, and they're very heavy in the box of parts. And we had been to, I think, 3 Home Depot locations. And because they said they had it, but then they didn't. So ultimately we get to one, it's late, I'm tired, I'm sure I'm hungry. I'm just in general cranky at that hour. And we're waiting at the front desk, at the customer service desk. And I distinctly remember I took a seat in one of those scooters.
The motorized things.
Scooters. And I was really tired and sitting and waiting because they were going to, get the forklift and pull the box down. And we're standing there, and it took a while. So I share those details because another part of this fight, flight, freeze response is if your system is already stressed because of all those sorts of things I just mentioned, hungry, tired, been a long day, you're more susceptible to your fear response. And so we're waiting, and a gentleman finally arrives and sees that it's 2 women that are buying this shed. And he felt the need to ask out loud, who's going to help you with this? It's really heavy. And I could feel, at the time, I may not have had words for it, but I could just feel like it's going to happen. Like, this is it. The moment is going to happen. And I came flying out of that scooter, past Sarah, who was standing calmly and politely. And I say to that gentleman, I raised my voice for sure, and I said, Sarah, tell him how much you back squat.
She did. She did.
And I was so mad, and I turn around, as I often do in those circumstances, like, now I'm going to bring my strong wife up here to make this point. And she is gone. She is nowhere to be seen.
Nope.
And so
Exactly.
Sure enough, she froze and fled. It was a combination response in that case. And the man, I don't even remember what happened next. I just know that
I'm sure I just picked up the ball.
and later assembled it, which I think he had also made comment, like who's going to put it together. He was making all sorts of mistakes that evening. But that was a moment where I was done, and I came out fighting, and you were done, and you shut down. And perfect example.
Yeah. Of course, now we joke about it. And now I'm like, you can't use my muscles for your words.
Yeah, we say that a lot because I do often want to be confrontational, and my physical stature doesn't quite match the strength of my words.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just some real life information. I encourage you to, use this in your household to pay attention, maybe do like a little data collection and just observe your family, particularly during times of transition, a change in jobs for yourself or your family, school connected transitions. And please do visit graceguides.com because we have some upcoming, and we'll be putting them on social, of course, some upcoming back to school specials because we're recording this in mid-July. And so that time is coming, and we will have some great resources to share with you to help your kiddos and yourself get through a transition without too much fighting, flying, or freezing.
Thank you.
Thanks.